So this is a bit of an unplanned video. I need to build a Windows 98 PC for myself. If you'd watched my Windows 98 PC build a while back, you'd know I have this awesome Dell XPS from 1999 that I use for gaming. In that video, I installed a bunch of parts and it was basically the killer retro PC in my eyes. Until last night, I wanted to play a little bit of Unreal Tournament. Halfway through the game, the sound started to act really funny. I didn't think too much of it and just turned my speakers off. As soon as I finished like that round in Unreal Tournament, it completely froze up, like didn't respond. And if you've used Windows 98 before, this isn't completely uncommon. It crashes a lot. So I hit the hard reset button on the front of the computer and the computer reset until it didn't want to come back up. Long story short, replacing every part I can, testing everything I possibly can. Let's just say I don't think that system's going to be in service for a long time. So it's found its place on my project shelf where it will probably remain till the end of days. So in the meantime, I want to build myself a Windows 98 PC using only the parts that I have at home and not spending a single cent. This is going to be a little bit tough because I've got all sorts of bits and pieces that I've collected over the years. That includes parts from other computers that I've pulled apart. It's stuff that I've impulsively purchased on eBay, parts that have been given to me from a friend or a family member. I think I can pull this off. I do want it to be period correct. So something that can basically natively run Windows 98. I don't want to go too new. It has to perform on par or better than the Dell system. Just needs to basically run out of the box, play the games I want to play. Thus begins the completely unplanned and unscripted part of the video where we try and pull this off. If I can just get one game of Unreal Tournament, I'll be happy. So let's get stuck into it. The first thing I need is a case. Here it is in all of its glory. As I was bringing it upstairs, I noticed that it's been modified by someone in the past, which is kind of cool. There's these two fans that someone's cut holes in for. And there's a vent here at the front, which I think can also fit like a 120mm fan. So I might put one in there as well, just for airflow. And I also noticed this duct tape on the back where they've like sealed up holes. Whoever put a system in here in the past definitely was a bit of a cooling expert. It's a beige box. It'll fit perfectly on my desk. But this case is going to need a bit of a clean just to get it up to my standards anyway. Alrighty, so let's get this thing open and see what we are working with. So a little bit of dust, nothing too bad. I'll probably just hit it with a vacuum. My only concern with the case is whoever cut these holes to make room for the fans didn't really do anything about the exposed metal. So there is quite a bit of rust that just goes around these rings. I think I might just leave it as is. I'll just clean it up. So what I'm going to do is just remove these fans for now. That way I can give them a good clean. I just noticed that it's got these like rubber plugs around it to sort of keep it from vibrating. It's a lot of care went into this. This is actually pretty nice. The good thing about not living near the ocean anymore is that my electronics don't get ruined. Like I've had computers over the years when I lived near the coast that would just die because of how much corrosion they would have to suffer. So for this, we're going to use the good old magic eraser and get rid of some of those marks and stains and whatnot. Tasty. Also not sure what to do about this powered by ASUS sticker. I might just leave that on for now, even though I don't think anything ASUS is going in here. Another thing I've just noticed about this is that it's missing two of its feet. So I'll have to figure out some kind of a solution to that. I'm sure there's a better way to clean fans, and I'm getting dust everywhere right now, which is just awesome. Fuck. So here's what the fan looks like after a quick clean before and after. So yeah, PC won't be breathing in any of this stuff anymore. I would now say that the case is good enough. It is clean. All this talk about what case we're putting it in. You've noticed I haven't mentioned the hardware because I just had to accept something that maybe my collection of parts isn't quite as good as you might think it is. So for the motherboard, I'm going to be using this bad boy. This is the first time you've ever seen a AMD processor on this channel. Actually, no, I'm wrong. The iDick build had an Athlon something in it, and so does this. This has an Athlon XP, 2001, 2002 era. Definitely more geared towards Windows XP, but should be fantastic for Windows 98. This is actually an Asus motherboard, which is cool. So technically, this is Asus inside. So I'm going to leave that sticker on the front of the case. However, the model here, A7N266VX, it's a Sony Vaio motherboard. So it must have come out of a Sony Vaio system. There are all sorts of weird proprietary connectors on the front. It's also missing like a serial port, which is kind of interesting for that time period because everything had a serial port. It's got AGP, it's got 3 PCI slots, onboard networking, so I can use it for a LAN party. It does actually have onboard video, which I'm not going to use, but pretty cool option. I've got some DDR RAM in there already, 512 meg, which is Windows 98's limit, so that's fine. I put a brand new button cell battery in there as well, so it's going to remember all those BIOS settings. There is onboard sound, which I assume is just going to be some like Sigmatel or like Analog Devices chipset. Hopefully we can disable that and just put something decent in here. And for the GPU, we're going with the nVidia GeForce FX 5900 XT, I believe it's called. You can see this one's actually got like a bodgy sort of fan heatsink setup. This is not factory, but when I got this graphics card, it didn't have a cooler, so this is what I had lying around. Just strap that on, it fits, it works, keeps it nice and cool. It will require external power, so we're just gonna make sure that our power supply's got enough juice for that, which shouldn't be too hard. Back in high school, I think I did a low budget build that had like 2 standoffs in there. So that's all I had. See if I just place this in, if that'll slot in nicely. Okay, that kind of works. So let's get this motherboard nice and secure in here. I think I should have enough room to slide the power supply in. Maybe I'll go grab the power supply now before I find out the hard way. Now, unfortunately, all I had lying around was this like Beecroft, I think the brand is, power supply, which is just one of those generic Chinese power supplies. But look, it's served me well so far. The voltages all look good. Hopefully that's not any kind of foreshadowing, but you'll have to continue to watch the video to find out. All right, so power supply is in. Let's get this chunky ATX connector installed. I'm also only now realizing that I've only got one spot for a hard drive, not 2. I usually like to put 2 hard drives in, one for backups and the other for, like, you know, the operating system. So that's not going to happen unless, so to overcome the lack of a second hard drive spot, I've got one of these in box. Now, you might remember the Dell PC also had one of these. It's like a hot swap hard drive bay. So I didn't really anticipate that it would not go all the way in because the motherboard's blocking it. So I'm gonna have to rearrange things a little bit now. So I managed to get both of the drives in. So I fucking just pinched myself. That's good. So I managed to get the drives in, and I don't think that looks too bad. I kind of like the, you know, extra accessory on there. So I got all of the front panel buttons and LEDs and stuff connected. I think I've got it right. I'm gonna have to do some testing. I really hope that speaker's working, but it's all good if it doesn't. There is one onboard, a little piezo job on the motherboard. I think what I'll do now is get the hard drives connected in there. Ribbon cables are already really fun to install, let alone doing it on camera. I don't think I'm actually gonna be hot swapping the drives very often or at all. It's purely just a method of getting a second hard drive slot. Okay, so floppy drives installed. Almost forgot about that. I'd say this computer's at the very least ready to be tested. So before I go ahead with that, I want to sort the foot situation. Yep, they came out really easily. They're nice and soft as well, so it shouldn't scratch my desk. And actually, yeah, I much prefer using these than the plastic feet. It's not even rubber. What I'll do now is test it, but without the GPU or sound card. I just want to see if it posts and boots, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so the moment of truth. We've got a beep, and we've got a post screen. Sweet, detected both hard drives and the CD-ROM drive. Awesome. We do have an error that says hardware monitor error found power supply fan. I think we just enter the BIOS. We might be able to fix that up. I don't see an option to disable the onboard audio, which is a little bit annoying. I can also see this memory stick controller, which is probably from the Sony VAIO system. Leave that disabled. Everything else looks fine. Power up control. Yes, so there's the power. Oh, there's an ignore option. Okay, I'll leave the CPU one on. It is a little bit noisier than I'd like, but what can you do? Let's get the GPU installed. I do think that this generation of GeForce GPUs are definitely some of the best you can get for a Windows 98 machine. In my humble opinion, for the sound card, I decided to go with the Aureal Vortex 2, which is a pretty legendary card. It's got hardware-based acceleration for 3D sound and has excellent Windows 98 driver support. Everything is now installed, closed up. I got the fans back on. That was a bigger pain than I was expecting, but so I'm going to go ahead, plug this all in, get Windows 98 installed, and see you in a sec. After about a week of on and off troubleshooting, I still couldn't get this computer to boot into Windows 98 after installing the drivers, sound card, and the video card. Unfortunately, I didn't capture any footage of this process because I just burnt so much time on it. The computer worked fine in Windows XP, but Windows 98 just wouldn't cooperate with me. No matter which driver I was using for the graphics card, I kept running into blue screens or crashes, or if I loaded up a video game, it would just go black and then crash. So I decided to switch to Team Red with an ATI Radeon 9800. And guess what? It worked right away with the first set of drivers I tested it with. Pretty ironic, right? As for the sound card, the DOS game support on the Aureal Vortex I installed didn't play nice with this motherboard. DOS gaming support on PCI Sound cards can be tricky since many of them weren't designed to be fully compatible with DOS, which relies heavily on older ISA-based hardware for sound. In the end, I swapped the Vortex for a Sound Blaster Live, and I'll save this Vortex for another build I'm working on. The Sound Blaster Live also supports EAX, which one of the games I'm planning to test takes full advantage of, so that's a nice bonus. Anyway, back to the video. So the PC is done after all of that work, replacing the GPU, changing the sound card. It was a bit of a process, but we got there in the end. And I now have a Windows 98 gaming computer that is set up exactly how I like it. Now, since some time has passed, you can see that I've personalized a little bit. I've got a wallpaper and new color scheme. This is what I miss about Windows, where you could really customize your color scheme. Like, that was really, really fun. But I do have some videos here, and this is one that really summarizes my experience getting this computer going. So let me just hit play on that.
Let's plug it in. It's going to say, hey, I see you plugged in a new device, and it's going to load in the appropriate drivers. You'll notice that this scanner build,
Yeah, so that actually happened live in 1997 or 98, just before Windows 98 was released. And it's something that I saw quite a lot trying to get this PC going. So let's use Everest. This is a newer version from 2005 or 2006. So the CPU is an AMD Athlon XP 2400 Plus, clocked at 2 GHz. And you might be wondering, why is it clocked at 2 gigahertz when the model is the 2400 plus? Now, this is kind of AMD's sketchy marketing back then. For 2 gigahertz, you got the Pentium 4, the Intel Pentium 4 equivalent of 2.4 gigahertz. Now, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's why they named them this way. It's detected the Asus motherboard as well. As I mentioned, this one came out of a Sony Vaio and has the nVidia nForce 220 chipset. I did have some issues getting the drivers going with the nForce chipset, but I think I had to use like version 2 or something like that. Half a gig of RAM, it's a maximum that Windows 98 officially supports. So I did replace the FX 5900. Doesn't matter what driver I tried, it was playing up. Yeah, I just couldn't get it going no matter what I tried. Maybe one for another build. So the GPU I ended up putting in here is basically the same one as the Aldi PC that I did in my last video. I had to use these drivers called the Omega drivers. But yeah, really great GPU. Definitely like sort of mid to high range for 2003, I'd say. Did get the Sound Blaster Live in there. So the Sound Blaster Live is a pretty good sound card for Windows 98. It has okay DOS game support. Under no circumstances could I get audio under DOS working on this system. And I think there's some kind of conflict. It might have to do with the onboard audio that's in there, which is unfortunate. But because the Sound Blaster Live doesn't have the most amazing DOS support, in my opinion, I don't mind using it in this build. Another thing that I like about this card is it's got EAX, which is kind of Creative's version of A3D, which I've mentioned in videos before. But anyway, enough specs, let's get into some games. Now for all of these games that I'm testing out, it's going to be in either 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768. And the reason why I'm sort of targeting those resolutions is, for me, I do find that that's kind of like the sweet spot. Usually 1024 by 768 if I can, but I really don't mind 800 by 600 on a CRT. Like on a CRT, especially like a half decent one. I played through this game's story at this resolution, and for the most part, I mean, you can see yourself, it's pretty smooth. Oh God. Oh shoot, now we've got chaos. Yeah, you can already see the performance. Oh my God. Oh, how did you get down? I thought no way you survived that. Oh, there's more donuts and pizza there. Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. Get off my back. Damn. Oh my God, I can literally hear a rocket coming towards me. Oh my God. Yeah, if you've never played Postal 2 before, it can get incredibly chaotic. But what I do like about this game is you, as the player, can be as chaotic as you want. There's these things called pacifist runs. So basically you play through the entire game without killing anyone or causing any harm. I've never tried it because I don't think I have that kind of patience, but maybe one day I'll give that a try. Look, I played through the whole game on this system and I was really happy with it. I just wanted to show that off as a starting point. So 1024 by 768 resolution. I'm going to turn trails off. We're going to turn off frame limiter. I think I'm going to turn off frame sync as well, and we're going to just pump up the draw distance. And I'm sure you can already see this is running at a buttery smooth frame rate. There is a problem though with the GTA 3 when you run it at a high frame rate. The physics get all messed up, the cars act funny. So let's see how we go just at uncapped frame rate. I believe VSync should be on anyway, and my screen is running at 60 Hertz. So in theory, we should be okay. I know with this CRT, I can pump it to 85 Hertz, which I usually will play at. But when I'm doing the video capture, anything above 60 Hertz starts to act really funny and there's heaps of tearing. So anyway, I've just turned the music off because it's going to be copyrighted, but you can see here I've enabled the EAX 3D audio. I'm pretty sure this does support Aureal 3D. Yeah, so it actually does support Aureal 3D. So if I could have gotten that Aureal Vortex 2 working, I could use Aureal 3D, but unfortunately, no luck there. A little bit of lag there, but that's okay. I feel like I normally just drive around and run people over, but let's actually kickstart a mission. My mother's my sister. The NPCs in this game are incredible. Yeah, so there's little dips in performance that I'm sure you can see, and I'm not really sure what that is. Like, everything else is, oh god, everything else is rendering just fine, but it could also be like the hard drives being too slow, so as it's loading up assets, it's just slowing down. Yeah, look, I'm not too sure why it's running like that. It's like smooth 1 second and then slows right down. I can't say I'm happy with that performance. You know, this is a game that's from 2001. It should be fine. You can't win them all. I feel like I usually show successes. So instead of showing you Half-Life, I thought I will show you something a little bit different. This is a mod called They Hunger. Now, if you're a fan of zombie stuff, you're gonna like this game. It's just a Half-Life mod that was really, really popular in the early 2000s. I feel like I show Half-Life, and you know, we all know how Half-Life works and we've all played it. Well, most of us have anyway. You know who you are? Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the Gold Source engine, it's the game engine that the original Half-Life runs on, and Valve very kindly gave everyone the tools they needed to create their own games using that exact same engine. I believe the only catch was they couldn't charge for them because they were considered art, so it was non-commercial use. You could license it for a fee, and some games did. You know, for example, the Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike started off as a free mod, which eventually became commercial and was bought by Valve. Team Fortress was the same. I believe they were actually Aussie developers that created Team Fortress, which is kind of cool. I do really like the ambiance of a lot of these Gold Source mods. I think I have to ring the bell up here, don't I? Die head crab. Ah, that's where it was coming from. Oh, that's just sneaky. Alright, so I think I played enough of that. You get the idea. Half-Life and any mods running on Half-Life gonna run really nicely on here. Now this is a very graphically intense game, Snood. Oops. So one of the reasons why I love Windows 98, it's got really good support for the old DOS games. But in order to play those DOS games with music, you need to have a good sound card, usually an ISA sound card, which is like a 16-bit sound card, or a PCI sound card that has that support for DOS games. And usually the way it works is you put the sound card in, you go into the settings for that sound card, and you enable game compatibility mode or DOS mode. And what it does is it creates like a virtual sound card that every DOS game will be able to use. There are some games that were ported from DOS to Windows. For example, Doom for Windows 95. You know, instead of having to run through DOS, it's running directly on top of Windows, and you can hear the sounds working. And that's because it's interfacing with the sound card through Windows and not directly with the sound card as it would with DOS. So, you know, there's some DOS games that unfortunately were never ported to Windows 95, which sucks. But look, I've got so many other machines that I use, and to be honest with you, I usually play them on my actual DOS machine. So, all right, Call of Duty, another first-person shooter, but this one came out in 2003. So at the tail end of the Windows 98 support period. All right, those are my buddies. Got him. Whoa, that animation looks terrible. Yeah, so COD 1, that's really fantastic. Like that is, I would say that is LAN party ready. COD 1 is one of the games that I do like to play at, that we do like to play at our LAN parties that we sometimes host. And honestly, I could see myself using this PC for this game anyway. Cool. Call of Duty came out 2 years after GTA 3, somehow runs better than GTA 3. I'm not sure why. Now, there's a couple of other games and Half-Life mods and stuff that we could look at, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. This might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I thought we could maybe just, you know, show something kind of retro and kind of cool off. So this is emulating a Macintosh Quadra. This is a program called SoftMac from the late 90s, and what we are running here is macOS 8.0, definitely around that Windows 98 era, and this PC is emulating a Mac, which is kind of cool. I don't know what, you know, use I would have for this, but hey, we've got a puzzle. This is gaming. How do we actually start the puzzle? Yep, this is the bar, ladies and gents. This is the bar, is puzzles. Oh, and it's crashed. Oh my god, it's actually crashed playing a freaking jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, okay. To be fair, I could only get the emulator running with 16 mega RAM. For some reason, when I bumped it to 32, it would just freeze. I'm not sure why. So yeah, that is my new Windows 98 computer. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe and feel free to watch some of my other videos. I love to play around with old computers and old games. I initially thought this was just gonna be like a stopgap machine until I figure out what's wrong with my Dell XPS. But honestly, I've kind of fallen in love with it in the process. It looks cool. It's got the custom fans on the side. I've got the all beige look, so it's a winner in my books. Looks fantastic on my desk, and yeah, definitely gonna make a few appearances at some LAN parties, I think. So yeah, until next time. I always joke with my friends when we're having LAN parties, oh god, how bad I am at the game. When I'm versing bots, I feel like it's, you know, really sweet and I do really well and I kick ass, but then I get to a LAN party and my name is usually all the way in the bottom on the leaderboard, so